Hello, welcome back to Life on the Franch. Today we are doing a book haul. So I went down the rabbit hole of BookTube, which, if you aren't familiar, is a corner of YouTube that is centered around reviewing books, recommending books, talking about books, and there are a bunch of great booktubers out there. And for those of you who might be new to the channel, I have done a few videos where I've recommended books in the past, whether that's physical books or books that you can get on Kindle Unlimited. It wasn't sponsored, it was just, that's where I read most of my books. But because of all the videos I watched on BookTube, I kind of went a little crazy and bought a bunch of books. And my plan is to make videos kind of chunking these books into different groups and recommending them or not to y'all. So you'll be seeing those videos in the future, but I'm so excited about these books that I kind of just want to show you the haul in its own video so you can see like all of the books together, and then I'll do like an in-depth review of those books in different videos coming up in the future. So the first video I'm going to make is a review on Jack Edwards' taste. Jack Edwards is a booktuber. He also reads books that I wouldn't necessarily read, so I wanted to buy some books that would push my reading comfort zone a little bit. So for example, I don't read a lot of translated work, so I picked out The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa, which is translated by Stephen Snyder. And this book is about it's sort of three characters, the professor, the housekeeper, and the housekeeper's son. It's sort of about found family and math, the love of math. And the professor, he only has an 80-minute memory, so it's also about how to cope with that and how to build relationships and what memory means. So there's that book. The House Guest by Amparo Dalia. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering these names. This one is translated from Spanish by Audrey Harris and Matthew Gleason, and it's a collection of short stories that says it's going to be sort of like Poe, like it's also compared to Hitchcock, and the stories deal with loneliness, desire, paranoia, isolation, and fear. And I don't really read short stories. I don't even read novellas. So, but I'm interested in this book because if it is like Edgar Allan Poe, I do like Edgar Allan Poe and his short stories. So I'm not opposed to the idea, it's just not what I normally read. So I figured this could be a good bridge for that. It wouldn't be my channel if I didn't pick out a queer book he recommends. So this is Notes of a Crocodile, which is translated by Bonnie Huey, written by Qi Miao-jin, who is from Taiwan. She's a lesbian author, and she committed suicide at the age of 26, I believe. And this book was published posthumously. But it's about like queer kids in college, and the primary character is an unnamed lesbian narrator, and it's about her relationship with this other woman who, I guess, like, their relationship is kind of toxic, and it's sort of a coming of age story, and it's set in the post-martial law era of late 1980s Taipei. So it's considered a revolutionary work, especially for the time it was written, and also the setting of like Taiwan and China, where LGBTQ plus books are often banned. So I'm excited to read this, especially because it's such a critical piece by an author who is very renowned for their legacy in contemporary Chinese literature, according to a professor of English in Bard College. So we'll see if I like it or not. And I should also point out, like, when I do make these videos, obviously I think something that gets missed in BookTube is people have like their own preferences in books. So I think I'm going to make a whole separate video about what I look for in books and what I get out of reading, because I think like why read is a really interesting question, and I think every single person has a different answer. And if you understand why somebody reads, I think you will be better off at understanding where their recommendations come from and if you will like their recommendations. The last book of his that I'm going to be reading is Ariadne, which is a feminist retelling of the story of the Minotaur. But it goes beyond that, and it covers like Ariadne's entire life. And I know nothing about Greek mythology. All I know is that it's going to be sad, and because it's feminist, it's probably also going to be very F-men energy, but in a realistic way. So as I said, I wanted to get like more than, so I watched more than Jack Edwards, and I also, you know, he's like a straight white dude, and I don't really read. I read mostly queer fiction, so I wanted to get like queer BookTube recommendations. So that's where these next set are coming from. So the first one that I purchased is Love Me Whole, which I actually have read. Like before I bought this book, like a physical copy, I read it on Kindle, but I liked it so much that I bought a physical copy to review within the context of my next queer book recommendations. So this book focuses on, it's a love story, it's a romance novel between a character with dissociative identity disorder and a man who goes back to college, and they meet at college. But there's a little bit of an age gap, but not a huge one. And it's written from the character who is getting to know the person with this dissociative identity disorder, and I really liked that choice because it helps you, the reader, also learn about and get to know like this person's experience with this dissociative identity disorder, and it makes the book really relatable, and you feel like you're learning with the character. So I did like that about it. I'm not going to talk more about it because I'm going to talk about it at length in a different video. Then I Wish You All the Best, another romance novel. This one centering a non-binary character. So I'll read a little bit of the blurb. So, after coming out to their parents as non-binary, Ben DeBacker, or Baker, I'm not sure, is thrown out of their house and forced to move in with their estranged older sister Hannah and her husband Thomas, whom Ben has never even met. Struggling with an anxiety disorder compounded by their parents' rejection, they come out to Hannah, Thomas, and their therapist and try to keep a low profile at a new school. But Ben's attempts to survive the last half of senior year unnoticed are thwarted when Nathan Allen, a funny and charismatic student, decides to take Ben under his wing. As Ben and Nathan's friendship grows, their feelings begin to change, and what started as a disastrous turn of events looks like it just might be a chance to start a happier new life. At turns heartbreaking and joyous, I Wish You All the Best is both a celebration of life, friendship, and love, and a shining example of hope in the face of adversity. So I'm very excited about this novel. I like romance novels. You're going to see that theme a little bit, but this is something I would just pick up and read typically, and when I saw it recommended, I was like, heck yeah, I'm reading it. Another romance novel that I'll be reading is The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. So this book is a queer, black, Afrofuturistic, magical, ancestral love oracle book, according to Gabby Rivera, author of Juliet Takes a Breath. It is a love story between two women, two black women. One is from Trinidad, and when she's found out to have a lesbian lover, she is sent to America to live with her father, and has to get to know like what it's like to live in the United States as a black queer woman. And the other main character is Mabel, and she is a queer black woman. They become like friends, and it turns into a romance, and it also, like, I think makes a twist from her helping Audrey to Audrey helping her, because there's like an illness involved. I don't know. I'm very excited about this book. So that's that. Again, recommended, so I'm hoping that it's good. And then this book is a memoir by George M. Johnson, who is an LGBTQ plus advocate, who focuses on what it's like to be black and queer. And this book is called All Boys Aren't Blue, and it's written as a young adult novel. And I just think it's going to be very real. Like, some of the warnings in the front of the book is that it mentions like sexual assault, it mentions homophobia, it mentions racism. I just think it's going to be a very real book, but at the same time very moving, and I'm excited to read this book. This is probably the book, either this book or I Wish You All the Best. These are like the two books I'm the most excited to read of the bunch. Continuing on the path, this is the Laramie Project and the Laramie Project 10 years later. So the Laramie Project is a play, and the 10 years later is a kind of sequel play, based on a true story of a gruesome killing of a gay man in Wyoming, Laramie, Wyoming. And it's about how the town of Laramie responded to that death, and the different people in Laramie. And then the second play is kind of about the legacy of living with that as like the most known thing about your town. This took place in 1998, the murder, and I was born in 1997, so it would also be historical. And I just think it's going to be very interesting how perspectives have changed so much in the general population between 1998 and now, 2022. So yeah, but that's the Laramie Project. The next book is Nama, a novel by Sarah Blake. So let me read you some of the blurb. With the coming of the Great Flood, the mother of all disasters, only one family is spared, left drifting on the endless waters, waiting for them to subside. We know the story of Noah, moved by the divine to build an ark and launch an escape. Now, in a work of astounding invention, Sarah Blake reclaims the story of his wife, Nama, the matriarch who kept them alive. Here is the woman torn between faith and fury, lending her strength to her sons and their wives, caring for an unruly menagerie of restless creatures, while silently mourning the lover she left behind. Here is the woman escaping into the unreceded waters, where a seductive angel tempts her to join a strange and haunted world. Here is the woman tormented by dreams and questions of her own, questions of devotion and self-determination, of history and memory, of the kindness or cruelty of fate. In a fresh and modern language, Blake revisits the story of the Ark and discovers the agonizing burdens endured by the woman at the center of it all. Nama is a parable of our time, a provocative fable of body, spirit, and resilience. So it was in a book recommendation list that was LGBTQ plus centered, but I'm just not sure if it is or not, so we will see. And another book, similarly, that I'm not sure if it's LGBTQ plus or not, is the Sawkill Girls. It focuses on three girls, Mary, Zoe, and Val, who I guess they're at Saltkill Rock, where gleaming horses graze in rolling pastures and cold waters crash against black cliffs, where kids whisper the legend of insidious monster at parties and around campfires, where girls have been disappearing for decades, stolen away by ravenous evil no one has dared to fight until now. So it's supposed to be eerie and gothic and a chiller, creepy and horrific. So I like murder mysteries, so I anticipate liking this book. It says it focuses on the power of female friendship, so that'll be really interesting. But I'm hoping there's a love story in here somewhere in the background. I have The Deep, Rivers Solomon, with David Diggs, William Hudson, and Jonathan Snipes. So this one is super interesting. So let me just read you the blurb. Yatu holds the memories of her people. Her people, the Wajanru, descendants of pregnant African slave women thrown overboard by slave owners, live idyllic lives in the deep. Their past, too painful to be remembered regularly, is forgotten by everyone save one. The memories, harrowing and wonderful, traumatic and terrible, are destroying Yatu. And so she flees to the surface, escaping her expectations and responsibilities, and discovers a world where the Wajanru left behind long ago. With me. So I'm very excited to read this book as well. And so those are the books I ordered online from this BookTube thing. And then I was like, oh my gosh, so that's like 3 videos, right? Also, I have one that hasn't come in yet, which is The Adventures of Aristotle and Dante. But it hasn't come in yet. So, but that also is in this. That'll be in somewhere of those last 2 videos. But then, you know how I'm always at the Dollar Tree. So, there's like books for sale at the Dollar Tree, as well as like games. There's so many things you can get at the Dollar Tree, it's kind of wild. But the first one is Scared Little Rabbits, which is a young adult book. And it says, when Nora gets accepted into her dream summer program at the prestigious Winthrop Academy, she jumps at the chance to put her coding skills to use. But then a fellow student goes missing, and the tech trail for the crime leads back to Nora. With no one else to trust, Nora must race to uncover the truth and clear her name, or she might be the next to disappear. So, again, I like mystery thrillers, so maybe this will be good. The next one is Akin by Emma Donoghue. And it has positive reviews from like Stephen King, as well as a person from the New York Times and a person from the Washington Post. So I'm like, why is it only $1? So this one is a retired New York professor's life is thrown into chaos when he takes a young great-nephew to France in hopes of uncovering his own mother's secrets from World War II. So it's supposed to be kind of about found family, and if you've sensed a theme, that is one of the themes of books I enjoy. So I think I'll like it, but we'll see. And the last one is a nonfiction book called True Gentlemen, The Broken Pledge of America's Fraternities by John Hechinger. So I think having university professors recommend a book about university life gives this book a little bit more credibility to me, which is why I picked it up. And I'm also interested in it. I was never in Greek life. But I did have friends in fraternities, and so I am curious to see how this matches up to the experiences I had on the periphery of fraternities, as well as like the stories that happened at fraternities while I was in college, both at my university and at universities around the U.S., because there were a lot of negative stories. So, True Gentleman takes readers deep into the world of fraternity culture and reveals how profoundly that culture influences Wall Street, Main Street, and Washington. As centerpieces of campus life, fraternities still struggle with their original sins, what author John Heckinger calls the unholy trinity of drinking, misogyny, and racism. For a nation faced with the current politics of divisiveness, True Gentleman argues that the college fraternity offers a chance to understand and address the roots of essential American conflicts. So, I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know if I will enjoy it, but I do think that, like, it's interesting that it's at the Dollar Tree. So, that'll be its own video. I'm excited to review these books, but I couldn't contain how excited I was that I have gotten them. I've just had them out. Like, I haven't even put them on my bookshelf because I've just enjoyed their presence in my apartment as they've accumulated. And I should say, I got all of these books for very good deals, buying them used. Like, I bought them online, but I bought them used. And that's, like, such a hack, especially if you don't need to read it right away. But anyhow, if you want to share, like, books you're looking forward to reading, or if you have any, like, book recommendations, I'd love to make a video reading books recommended to me from YouTube comments. So please leave your favorite books down below so I can read them and then judge them. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of our content, click subscribe. Ding the bell button to know when we post. Most importantly, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!